Hello, everyone. Welcome to Daily English Talk.
Hi, Jack. Happy to be here today.
Sarah, I know you're an English teacher. Can you help us understand grammar better?
Of course, I'd be happy to. Many students hesitate when using English grammar. They find it confusing and difficult. Today, let's discuss the word would because it's very important.
That sounds great. First, what does would actually mean?
Would is a modal verb. It has several uses. Understanding when to use it is crucial. Let me propose that we explore different situations where we use would. This will help you figure out the pattern.
That's a good approach. Can you give us the first use?
Absolutely. First use is for conditional sentences. For example, if I had more time, I would learn Spanish. Here, I'm imagining a situation that isn't real right now. I don't have more time now, but if I did, I would learn Spanish.
That makes sense. Can you give another example?
Yes. If I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. I probably won't win the lottery, but I'm imagining what I would do if I did. The structure is important. We use past tense in the if clause, but we use would plus the base verb in the main clause. This is called the second conditional.
So the structure is, if plus past tense, then would plus base verb.
Exactly. You figured it out perfectly. That's the basic structure. However, there's another important conditional. It's called the third conditional. It talks about the past. It talks about situations that didn't happen.
What would that look like?
Good question. The third conditional uses would have plus past participle. For example, if I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. This means I didn't study hard, and I didn't pass the exam. I'm talking about a situation that didn't happen.
Can you explain why we use this?
We use it to express regret or to imagine what would have been different. If I had gone to bed earlier, I would have felt better this morning. This means I didn't go to bed early, and I don't feel good now. We often use this structure when we want to discuss the past and how different it could have been.
That's very useful. What's the second main use of would?
The second use is for polite requests. We use would to ask for things politely. For example, would you help me with my homework? This is more polite than help me with my homework.
Why is it more polite?
Using would makes the request softer and less direct. It shows respect. It allows the other person to refuse politely. Compare these. Can you open the door? Versus, would you open the door? Both ask the same thing, but the second sounds more courteous.
What other polite uses are there?
We can say things like, would you mind helping me? Or, would it be possible to extend the deadline? These express requests very politely. In professional settings, this is especially important. I frequently use this style in emails to my boss. It shows respect and professionalism.
That's excellent advice. What's the third use?
The third use is for offers. When you want to offer someone something, you can use would. For example, would you like some coffee? Or would you care for dessert? Again, it sounds more polite and welcoming than, do you want coffee?
Are there other uses?
Yes. We also use would to talk about past habits or repeated actions. For example, when I was young, I would go to the beach every summer. This means I regularly went to the beach in the past. It was my habit. Another example, my grandmother would tell us stories every evening.
How is this different from used to?
Great question. Both would and used to describe past habits. However, used to can also describe past states that no longer exist. For example, I used to be afraid of dogs talks about a fear I had in the past that I don't have now. You can't say I would be afraid of dogs to mean this. So, used to is more flexible than would for past situations.
That's a helpful distinction. What else?
Would is also used to talk about what you imagine or predict. For example, I think it would be interesting to learn Chinese. Here, I'm imagining or predicting that learning Chinese would be interesting. It's speculation about how I would feel or what would happen.
Can you give more examples?
Sure, it would be wonderful to travel to Paris. That would be too expensive. This would work better if we changed the strategy. In all these cases, we're imagining or predicting something.
I see the pattern now. What about in reported speech?
Excellent point. In reported speech, we often use would because we're reporting what someone said they would do. For example, if John said, I will help you, we report it as John said he would help you. The present tense will becomes would in reported speech.
Why does this happen?
This happens because we're moving the time frame. When John said it, it was future. But when we report it later, it becomes past reported speech. The modal changes accordingly. This is called backshift. We shift the tenses back.
That's interesting. Are there any mistakes people commonly make with would?
Yes, many. One common mistake is using would in the if clause of a conditional. You shouldn't say, if I would have time, I would study. You should say, if I had time, I would study. The if clause uses the past tense, not would.
What's another common mistake?
Another mistake is using would when you should use will. For example, if you study hard, you would pass the exam is incorrect. It should be, if you study hard, you will pass the exam. This is called the first conditional, and it talks about real possibilities. The main clause uses will, not would.
So the difference is between real and unreal situations?
Exactly. You figured it out. First conditional is for real possibilities. Second conditional is for unreal or less likely situations. This distinction is crucial. I frequently point out this difference to my students because they confuse these two structures.
What about would have? Is that different?
Yes, would have is different. We use would have for past unreal situations. If I had known about the party, I would have attended. I didn't know, so I didn't attend. This is third conditional. It describes a situation that didn't happen.
How do you teach this to overcome confusion?
I propose several strategies. First, I expose students to many examples. They see patterns naturally. Second, I conduct practice exercises where students must choose the correct form. Third, I remind them to think about when the situation happens. Is it present? Is it past? Is it real or unreal? Answering these questions helps them declare the correct form.
That sounds like a comprehensive approach.
It is. I also have students create their own sentences. This helps them understand deeply. When they construct sentences themselves, they overcome confusion faster. I encourage them to remain patient. Grammar takes time to master.
What resources would you recommend?
I would recommend grammar websites, textbooks, and apps. However, I would emphasize that reading and listening help too. When you expose yourself to English regularly, you develop intuition about what sounds right. I would also suggest finding a language partner. Practicing conversation helps you use grammar naturally.
Thank you for this comprehensive lesson on would, Sarah.
You're welcome, Jack. I hope this helps everyone understand would better. Remember, grammar is a tool for communication. Understanding these structures helps you express yourself more precisely and politely.
That's excellent wisdom. Any final thoughts?
Yes, I would declare that grammar isn't just about rules. It's about understanding how language works. Different structures serve different purposes. When you understand the purpose, the rules make sense. So ask yourself why we use certain structures. Understanding the why helps you remember the how.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for this lesson.
Thank you for having me. I hope viewers will practice these structures. If you use would actively, you would become more confident in English. Practice is essential.
Goodbye, everyone.